Very good evening, everyone. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is the last session of our NHN training for the February cohort. And I must say, big congratulations to you if you have made it to this point. It is not easy, it's not easy. N8N has enabled us to see how things can work automatically without human effort. And I believe from the very first day of the class, you have learned a lot. You have learned the basic foundation to get started with using anything to automate your task, either personal tasks, your business tasks, whatever task it is that you want to engage anything. A big congratulations to you once again. And I must tell you, you can go ahead and further your journey with anything. You can go ahead and further your journey. Today will probably be the shortest class ever. It's all about revision, revision, revision. It's all about revision. It's all about revision. We've talked a lot, beginning from the very first day where we introduced anything to us, and we discussed about the basic concepts. What is anything? What is workflow? And the various components of anything. Come on, and I must tell you, you guys have learned a lot. You guys have learned a lot. In our very first class, we introduced anything. And we define or explain rather what AI automation means. And if you remember very well, I believe by now this should just be a by knowledge. It shouldn't be something you'll be struggling with anymore. That is, if you have done due diligence with your studies and with working with anything. We define automation as you using artificial intelligence to automate manual tasks and processes. Automate manual tasks and processes. And say AI automation combines both artificial intelligence with workflow automation. And I remember I gave an analogy of workflow, the sequence of achieving a desired result, the sequential steps, those sequence that you go through to achieve certain task is what we call as workflow. Is what we call as workflow. For instance, if you want to, let's say, go to school every morning, there are certain routines that you go through to achieve that goal of going to school. So that sequence of steps that you engage towards achieving a desired result or towards completing a particular task, what we refer to as workflow. So when we now say AI automation, we are actually saying using an intelligence that is not of human. That's why we call it artificial intelligence. So we are modeling the intelligence of human. What we mean by modeling intelligence is we are trying to use the system to do what man would do. Okay, I will give example of some tasks that we can do with AI. We talked about smart task processing, AI power decision, machine learning, and increase our productivity. So when you automate your tasks, you are actually increasing your level of productivity. So those are the things we discussed in the very last class. We give an example of AI automation, such as chatbots, such as email automation, such as content generation and creation, you know, uh, AI summarizing reports or building reports. So we went further and introduced the N8N to us. And I said then that N8N is a workflow automation platform that allows you to connect app in order to automate process. So these app are actually referred to as nodes or steps. They are nodes or steps. So think of it in the context of a typical workflow. Uh, let's say um, let's say you are working in an office, and every morning before you commence the assignment for the day, you would have to analyze the previous day's work, write your report, and submit to your boss for approval. So that's a typical workflow. So when you arrive in the morning, you analyze the previous uh, report, then you what? You submit the report to your manager approves before you begin or you commence the job for the day. This is a typical example of an automation in that the first thing is when you come in the morning, you look at the data of the previous day, you analyze it, you look at it, and then you write your report and submit to your manager. That is a workflow. That is a workflow. And each of those step is what we refer to as a node in anything. So the point where you analyze the data is a node. The point where you submit the data is a node. The point where your manager approves is also a node. So the collections and connecting of this node to create a workflow is what we refer to as N8N. That is a software, is a workflow automation builder platform that allows us to connect apps or together to create a workflow. All right. So N8N, we say N8N uh, is a workflow builder. We say integrates many apps, and it can also run locally and on cloud. So I remember we discussed uh, extensively on that. And we talked about how data flows in anything. Now, I'm trying to summarize everything we've learned because uh, after my summary, uh, I will ask if there are any questions, and then we'll trash that, and I will talk on the project, and then we are done. We are done. All right. So we said data flow in N8N app through a format we call the JSON object. Please come in. Let me. All right. Sorry for that break. I was just trying to attend to a call. All right. So we said data flow in N8N app through what we call JSON object. JSON object. And I said JSON object is actually what is referred to as JavaScript object notation. It's a standard format that systems use to transfer data between them. All right. And JSON is a collection of data in key value pair format. Key value pair format. And these key value pairs are embedded in what we call a curly brace. Curly brace. So data are transferred within N8N workflow by JSON object. Those data are transmitted by JSON object. I would say for your workflow to kickstart, one of the things that kickstarts your workflow is a trigger. A trigger is what makes your workflow to commence. Something has to start your workflow. Something has to start your workflow. For instance, if at your workplace uh, every 8 a.m., you are supposed to carry out a particular task. Uh, excuse me, please. Oh, yes. So sorry for that short silence. Aha. So we said the trigger is what kickstarts your workflow. So I was making an example that let's say every morning by 8 a.m. you have to analyze the report of the previous day's job and then submit um, your analysis to your manager. Your manager approved before the day's job begins. Now, if you check from this analogy that I just gave, you will discover that the workflow will start by 8 a.m. And in the context of N8N, if you want to build that on N8N, what we will refer to that trigger as is on schedule, on schedule, on schedule. Now, there are other triggers that could be maybe when a user sends a message that's like on chat message, or maybe when a user clicks something, or a user, maybe an app sends something, what will start your workflow is what we refer to as a trigger. It's what we refer to as a trigger. And also, we went further and talked about the types of trigger. I talked about webhook triggers, the webhook triggers that starts a workflow when a data is sent from another app. We talked about this one. Example is when someone a user fill a form from Google App or when a payment is received. That's a typical example. When a payment is received and something should happen. That is an example of a webhook trigger. Webhook trigger. We also talk about the schedule trigger, which is time-based. Of course, I've explained that, like the one I said about 8 o'clock. That is a schedule trigger. And then we also have app specific trigger. That is when something happened in a particular app, when a message is received, a WhatsApp message is received, do this. When an Instagram message is received, do this. When an email message is received, do this. All right. That is a trigger. And we also talk about HTTP requests. I told you this is intermediate advanced concept. HTTP requests which allows you to connect with external services. It allows you to connect with external services. Okay. And we also talk about some nodes. Of course, we've mentioned some, the trigger, we have the HTTP, we also have the set node that allow you to modify data in a field. We also have the if node that allow you to set or create conditional logic. We also have the merge node that allow you to combine streams of data together into one. And we also have the mail node, of course, that allow you to send mail or to mail email, right? We also have some database nodes like the MongoDB, like Postgres and all. Eh? We we talked about them a lot. We talked about a lot. We talked about a lot. I think I also remember we talked about also some opportunities with AI automation, or some business application of AI automation. Yeah, we said you can actually be a freelancer. You can build for business. You can build AI workflow for business. So a lot was said in our first class. A lot was said in our first class. And in the second class, we went further to look at the N8N workflow. I mean, interface now. We went ahead to look at the N8N interface, see some components, some parts, and what they are used for and how to use them. And we did a lot. We built our first workflow. I showed you how to create an account with anything in the third session, I think. Was it third session or second session? Yeah, I can't remember again, but you know what we discussed. And fortunately for us, we built our first workflow uh, that allows us to generate leads, to gather leads, in our emails. And I think everyone was happy for that class. It was interactive, it was educational. And we went again, we talked about AI agent. I think that is where we stopped in the second phase. Actually, the class was divided into two phases. The part that talked about a workflow, and we created a simple workflow. And then the part that talks about the agent, AI agent, and we created our um, AI agent, to create a typical AI agent. And I think we ended it in our last class. And today, we won't be doing much because it's our last class. I just want you to be happy. I want you to feel free. I want you to uh, engage. If you have questions, please. I don't know why people are not sending questions on the platform, but feel free. If you have questions, feel free to engage the chat. Right. I wanted to add something to our last workflow that was built. Maybe let me share my screen. I'm not going to do anything though, but I think if it is good, let me just share my screen so that you will see where we stopped last time, the last class. All right. I hope my screen is visible now. Yes. Now this is a typical agent that we built, and we test run it, and it was working properly. The part I wanted to work on is the tool, but I think I have to change my mind now. And the reason being that uh, I've not gotten any question on previous classes that we've been doing. So, and I want to be sure that you all understand what we have been doing up to date before I can proceed. So for the fact that I've not received any question on that, so I will be leaving that two parts. I'm thinking someone is asking a question, but he or she is not asking. All right, so this is our last, and up to this point, it was not half baked. The project was not half baked, was not half baked. It was cooked correctly. We can test it out if we want to. If I say hello, now you see, it begins by introducing itself and is asking, how can I assist you with school meal? Now, notice that is not the response is not a vague response. It's responding in line with what it does. Is responding in line with what it does. In that the agent is configured to answer question that is pertaining to the firm as a cook. As a cook. So after saying welcome to the firm cook, he's now saying how can I help you with your school meal? Remember, we say we are only cooking for high school. So the context of each response will fall between the firm as an high school cook, cooking firm, cooking firm. That's what they do. And we did a few things. You can chat with it if you want to from your hand. Now, but what we are discussing today, or briefly, what I want to iterate is on your project. Please and please, uh, your project is to be submitted by to us next week. Um, Further details will be posted on the chat platform on how the mode of submission, or okay, let me do it this way. Now you have to build your workflow. I don't want to pick for you. Pick a simple workflow. And when I mean simple workflow, at least you should be using nothing less than 5 to 6 node, 5 to 6 node, so that somebody will not do two node for me and said he or she has finished project. No. Once you are building, as you are building your node, I need you to make a screen record of how you build your how you are building your workflow. I want to see the screen recording from beginning to the end, and to be sure that it is working properly. Now, while you are building, I need you to also explain what is happening at every node. What is happening at every node? So I want to have a screen record of you building your own workflow and explaining what is happening at every node. Then at the end of everything, I need you to run the entire workflow and test it. Let's see how it works. Let's see if it works. And you will submit the uh, the video, the screen recording. You submit it to the to our email address. Like I said, the update will be posted on the WhatsApp group. You submit it to the email address with your name, the title of your workflow, and then the attachment, your video, your recording. So that is your project. That is your project. Please do it for the sake of your learning. You learn by doing. You learn by practicing. You don't just learn by attending class and closing your notes or ceasing from practicing. No, you learn by continuous practice. That's how you learn. Knowledge grow by practice. Okay? So if there is no further question, I will be cutting off this session. Is just the introducing your project and telling you what your project will entail. Now, please, you can, we've talked a lot. Your project can be an agent. It can also include a chart model. It can even be a simple workflow, but let it be logical. Let it be logical and let it work properly. Let it work properly. And and until next time, we see you maybe in our intermediate or advanced session. Keep learning, keep practicing, don't stop. And I'm hoping to receive your projects very soon. By next week, your project should start coming in. Your project deadline is on Saturday. On Saturday, your project deadline is Saturday 25th. Saturday 25th. Saturday 25th of April. Your project deadline is Saturday 25th of April 2024. Please do well to submit your project, and God bless you. Bye for now.